Hello and welcome to Everything EFL. To my regular listeners, welcome back. To my new listeners, you are most welcome, and this is a great episode to start on. As I've said before, on Instagram, I think it's a fabulous place where you can find really good support and just some fabulous teachers to talk with, to get ideas from. And there's one that I follow on Instagram. I just think she's fantastic. She's got this warmth that kind of emanates across cyberspace, and I'm certain that if you ask her students, they will say that they absolutely adore her. So I'm very excited to introduce Wanda Atkins from WA Workshops. Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Everything EFL, my little podcast about English language teaching and other teachy stuff too. Credit and honourable mentions will be given during the episode or in the show notes. Let's crack on. Wanda, welcome to Everything EFL.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. This is totally awesome.
It certainly is. I've been wanting to have you on for a while because I just think that you have this real kind of, like I said, warmth and openness, and we've had chats before, and I just think that your attitude to your students is fantastic, and that's what I'd love to explore with you today. So before we go any further, why don't you let the listeners know who you are?
My name is Wanda. I'm American and Trinidadian, and I'm a teacher that does ESL in Europe. So I'm in France right now. I've been teaching for more than 15 years, but mostly to companies. That's an interesting type of career because at first some people do it because when you go to a foreign country, you speak English and it's the first job you could get. But I had already been teaching before without realizing that I can make a career out of it. So what happened is that while I was teaching in companies, I just realized I had my own unplugged way of doing it. I could not follow any kind of singular type of teaching, but I saw how it really engaged the students. And it's just something that inspired people to do different things. And so today I'm independent because I was working for language schools before, but I'm doing half and half, and like everybody's doing a little bit of something. It's the hustle today. It's the hustle.
That's it.
But today I'm independent, so I coach in English, meaning that if people have projects in English, I help them with that, and I continue also with the companies for whatever they need. So yeah, for me, it's really rewarding because I can see how people make progress, how they're more confident. It's great to see the imagination they can have at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. I've said it before, but I love it when that light switch goes on. You know, you see their demeanour changing, you see their confidence growing. It's amazing. Question. I mean, you said something about you couldn't follow a singular way of teaching. Is there a singular way of teaching? Should there be? Or is it a matter of just sort of picking and choosing?
Well, there's no really should in the whole thing, whereas before that's the way it was seen. And I know people have tried to train me to do the singular way. But yeah, I don't think there's any singular way of teaching. I think that was done for a certain period of time. And we see that today the results of that are that people just not a lot of people speak foreign languages because of that singular type. Not saying that it was wrong, it's just that it didn't accommodate the fact that we have different ways of learning. The way of teaching now, you have to encompass all of that because it needs to be diverse.
Yeah, and I also think that you have to accommodate how the brain actually works as well. And I'm not 100% convinced that, reading grammar rules, and setting it out in this kind of rules-based way that most course books do, I'm not convinced that is the best thing for our brains either. And you've also got that side of things, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that there has to be a certain level of comfort, safety, and confidence as well. And unless you really work hard to instill that in your group as well, the learning barriers are just going to go up because, well, there are a million reasons, but...
I usually have people, well, not usually, sometimes I have people do a kind of like an evaluation of that exactly to find out where they are. And in the beginning when we're learning, I know how to ask the questions to find out which type. And after that, I kind of cater the class or customize the class around that. And then once people start to react to that, then I say that we're going to try to have you learn how to use your other senses or other ways of learning. So it becomes a new experience, which could be a bit uncomfortable for some. But in the end, they're able to blend all of them together.
Lovely. Yeah, I mean, I think an aspect of that is gently encouraging. I'm not going to say pushing, because I don't think it's a good idea to push anyone, but getting students to feel that they can step outside of their comfort zone and try kind of new things. And that's also what I want to encourage teachers to do as well. So this is one of the reasons I've brought you on, because I'm really excited, because you spoke about doing activities where students actually lead the activities and they teach you something, or they teach something.
Yes,
that's right, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I really encourage that. I really, because I learned something at the same time.
And do students often learn something about themselves as well?
Well, they do, because they realize, maybe number one, I can do this. Number two, people are actually interested. And number three, how can we learn more? It really goes off into all different directions in the end. It's like, if I can do this, I can do other things too, So it's really a confidence builder.
It's so important, especially for younger learners as well. Like, I mean, I'm in my 40s now, and I'm only really discovering the confidence that I can actually do things, that usually the devil on my shoulder would be going, nah, you can't do that. And it's only now that I'm going, do you know what? I'm not listening to you. And if I'd had that 20 years ago, who knows?
Who knows? But, it's where you are now. And what's great is that you're open to it, because If you think about the systems that the establishments where we learned before, that was not really encouraged,
No.
Whereas, it really wasn't. So the people who did do it in the past were kind of seen as, they were categorized as other, we could say.
Yeah. And also, you in this level, in this line of work, you come across cultures and nationalities that, they don't have any kind of openness to that, or confidence level, or critical thinking skills. And as teachers, I think we really have a responsibility to teach those things, to develop them as people, not just teach them a language. Everything should be wrapped up into that, not just the I'm going to teach you the present perfect today. It's I'm going to teach you the present perfect, but I'm also somehow going to try and teach you to be a better person.
Well, I try to say that, especially when I'm working in companies, I explain that you're going to learn English, but it's going to be an experience. You're going to have a cultural experience. I'm going to learn your culture. You're going to learn my culture. And it's going to be strange from time to time, but we'll get along in the end, because we'll try to understand each other, and it's creating open-mindedness.
Absolutely. I think that's the key to so many positive things in life. It really is. Mm-hmm. So when you do an activity where the students are leading it, do you do sort of like a reflection at the end of it, saying what did you learn, or do you just kind of leave them to figure it out themselves?
The end of the activity, I do ask for feedback, in a sense. What did they get out of the whole experience? Because it is an experience, and very often they're usually surprised by some of the things that they've created or done. It's like, wow, I didn't realize I could actually do that. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a massive dopamine kick as well for them. Fantastic.
Really. Because they say, if I start here, I can do so many other things too.
Absolutely. That's the thing as well. Confidence building. It's so important. So if you are, I'm going to ask you for a few of your favorite activities in a moment, but what things do you need to consider when you're setting up an activity where the students are going to lead it, or are going to teach something?
Because I know that in a company environment, it's a little bit different. The students, of course, are number one. You have to figure out who will be able to accept the information, because the person who's leading the activity has to keep everyone in mind. So maybe weeks before, but people usually recognize if there's a group, certain people might need more time to understand, to make things clearer, learning how to repeat and to be patient. That's one of the biggest things. But usually if we're already in stage of having a student-led class, they had already understood that, by the time we get there. And so they really have to keep that in mind. And it's true that when you're in a company too, sometimes you get people who are, tired and react really erratically sometimes because some people are under pressure.
Yeah.
So we have to keep that in mind for any activity that we're doing. If it's, students like in school, it's basically the same thing, but you might have to take into account their age and to put yourself in their shoes of how you were maybe at that age. If you're dealing with 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds or 10-year-olds, it's not going to be exactly the same. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, but I think also, anytime you get inspiration or you basically want to kind of steal someone's idea, you have to tweak it a little bit to adapt it to your classroom. So I would advise anybody listening to this, even if you're not teaching in a company, if you're teaching teenagers, for example, how can you adapt what Wanda is telling you to suit your class? What can you take away and what can you add? Do you usually nominate a leader, or do you get the students to nominate the leader of the group?
I let the students do that. It depends on, because I don't really talk about levels when I'm in a group. I usually talk about who feels at that time that they could do the best for the group. The person who's going to do the most, it has to be the person who's really the team leader in a sense. That's going to consider everyone else's feelings to lead it.
And is there anything else you need to consider or do to kind of set the activity up that a teacher should know about?
Well, just, safety regulations. Because sometimes some of the activities can be a bit wild. I think about safety. Yeah.
What on earth do you do with them?
We've done some crazy things.
Excellent. Well, let's get to it then. What are your sort of top few activities that you love doing with your students?
So it might be when I'm in a company, for example, if it's a company that's automated or manufactures something, it would be a class on what they do. So if it's on the production floor, we're going down there. We're going to the machines from A to Z to learn how to do blank. And everybody's going to learn how to do it. It's really hands-on, actually.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the last, because I work with startups, tech startups, and it's true that it's important for people to do things to build their confidence. And I think my most favorite one was when they created an escape game, 5 escape games. But it was, they made the theme, all the, the challenges and everything until the end. It was like an escape game that lasted about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. It took them a month to create it.
Oh my God.
But it was like, it was really, really good. Some of them were really scary.
Do you mean like an escape room? Or...
No, we said escape game because they used everything. They used outside, inside. We were in a van. It was just, there were so many things going on. Yeah. You have to use everything. We used elevators. We used basements of buildings. Really everything.
Love it. Anything else? Although I think I know the answer to that.
I just, there's so many different types of things, but it's true that once you can give people that chance to say, I can do this and I could create something, it's maybe the first time, I don't know if it's the first time in their lives, but it's maybe the first time that people trust them to do it. And that's a completely different relationship than what people know of with their teachers. Because teachers are always seen as the authority that knows everything. Whereas here you say, you are responsible for this. What are we going to learn today? It changes the dynamic completely. And so you have this mutual respect, I think, that comes from these types of activities.
Yeah, very empowering. Very, very empowering.
Yeah.
We were chatting a while ago, and I'm sure you said something about a cooking class or something.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, that was just that people could decide, okay, today we're going to cook this, traditional meal. And so we organized to make sure we had all the materials, and we brought it to wherever it was, and we prepared a meal. or prepared a cake or something, but be able to explain how to do it. So it meant on their part a lot of preparation to find out the words, the ingredients, and things like that. But the fact of doing it together, it's people always remember. You'll never forget something like that. So it's very memorable every single time. The cooking ones, I love the cooking ones.
Yeah.
It's very yummy.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing better when students bring in food. It's like, yes, I've landed. This is what it's all about. But just, just the enjoyment, forgetting about the fact you're learning. Just brilliant. Really, really good. Now for class, I mean, there might not be the facilities to cook something, but you could invite students to teach their classmates a particular skill.
Yes.
We did salsa dancing once. Somebody took my class, we got everybody up, standing in partners, salsa music on, and he went through the basic salsa moves. Just anything like that. Do you have a skill? Can you teach it to the class?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure a lot of students would be really, and again, giving them a choice. If you don't want to, okay, fine. If you're feeling up to it and you think you can do it, bring on the challenge.
Meaning that also, some people might want to do it, but they might not want to lead it. So what you can do is have co-captains together who are leading the activity. It doesn't always have to be one person.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, because everyone has a part to play when it comes to a project. So, we can't forget the people who are on the back end.
Absolutely. And I think, again, when you're that's why I was asking you what you consider when you set up activities, because I would imagine that everybody needs to be assigned a particular role, especially with younger learners, because there's always the risk of someone just sitting there doing nothing. But if they have something to do, it makes them feel validated as well. And hopefully gives them the sort of the motivation to do their part, especially if you're in a team as well. You have other people relying on you.
Yes.
Great skills.
Definitely.
Great life skills.
Definitely. Because that's what we need. We need life skills.
We do.
A lot of people realize, we're in business or we're doing this and we need this vocabulary. I said, yeah, but can you use everyday vocabulary to begin with?
Yeah. Can you make small talk at that conference that you're networking at?
Exactly. Because they're like, it's always the same questions. Where do you live? How old are you? Do you have children? Boom. The conversation's dead. So it's definitely, I wouldn't say a life-changing event, but in a sense, yes, because you're learning how to deal with people with respect and applying it to yourself and to others at the same time.
Yeah, life enhancing, if you will.
Ooh, I like that one.
You can take that.
I'll take that.
I'll give you that for free.
Okay.
Do you have any more?
Anyway, she's like, give me more, give me more.
As Brittany said.
Give me more. Trying to think. Yes, activities that are outside. Any activities that are outside. If you're allowed to go to a park, please use outside, because nature in itself, you can go on nature walks with the class.
Ooh.
Work on the 5 senses, for example. If you have the chance, and even if you're in a city, it doesn't matter. You go along the walk, and for example, you tell everyone to close their eyes and ask them what they smell, what they hear, how they feel, things like that, so people can use different types of vocabulary, because we're so visual that we forget that we have the other, well, I know that in school when we were little, we had show and tell. But the show and tell can also be used in a different way, where people can bring in things where you can't see them, you don't know what they are. And because, today we'd have to change the rules a little bit, but it's, for example, we dried up an orange peel. And when an orange peel is dried after a couple of days, it feels like leather. So when you bring that into class, and everyone has their eyes closed and they're trying to figure out what is in their hands, everyone has their own thing. You put it in their hands. They have no idea. So I said, okay, well, describe the surface. What does the surface feel like? So they're not smelling it yet. They keep on touching it. I said, is it fragile? Is it this? Can you tear it apart? But really use the other senses. And when you tear it apart, it smells like an orange. But when you know it's an orange, some people might, identify it as something else. It's really whatever everyday things, you can really use it.
Yeah, and I think that the more everyday, the better.
Yeah,
really, because
just
the
relate.
vocabulary that you're going to use is. I was telling this to my class this week. They're an academic English class, and I said it's not about learning every fancy long word you can. It's learning the same words, familiar words, but combining with other familiar words to form phrases. And this is the language that's really going to help you. So
definitely,
I love that. Yeah. Do you ever get them doing a show and tell where they actually show it and go, "This is"?
Oh, at the end. Only at the end, only at the end, because the imagination is just because what they think it is not it at all. Most of the times, it's not what they think it is. They're like, oh, my imagination went completely, someplace else, and that's what's great about it. Our imagination in our five senses is it hasn't been exploited in a long time by ourselves. Meaning,
because I think a lot of us are just sort of stuck in front of a screen, and I love that kind of idea of the smelling and the hearing, because you forget, like a sound or a smell can really evoke a memory as well. It's so you can connect all that stuff to sort of feelings and emotions and experiences. Yeah, brilliant. And it's so simple. I love this.
It's really simple. It's really simple. It's true that certain smells, just be prepared, can trigger certain things for some people sometimes. It's good and the bad, But, it's true. We try to keep our session, I call them sessions, I don't call them classes, positive. And sometimes there might be some things that are negative that happen, but okay, that's something that could be discussed to a certain limit, because of course there are certain boundaries you're not supposed to go over. But maybe sometimes there might be something that might have to be discussed because somebody might be feeling uncomfortable or something like this. And that's also a thing that people need to be able to express, that if they're in a situation and they're feeling uncomfortable and they're speaking a foreign language, can they express that?
Yeah. Extremely important functional language. Absolutely. Especially, I'd say, also for maybe for young women being in certain situations. I mean, having those communication skills is absolutely essential.
Yep.
Absolutely. Loving this. Oh, tell me more. I'm sure you have more. I'm going to wring you dry.
It's going to wring me dry today, girl. But I think everyone has one that they've probably tried without thinking that it was a student-led activity. I would suggest, or my advice would be, to use your imagination. Watch children. Children give you the best activities in the world. Something you might see as silly, if you do that on an adult level, will open up different avenues of the imagination. That's, oh, I didn't know that really existed. Really, really. Playing with, Mr. Potato Head. Oh my goodness, Mr. Potato. I should be shamed. I should be shamed for Mr. Potato Head. I've used Mr. Potato Head in so many ways.
Tell me more.
To Mr. Potato Head. So everybody can see Mr. Potato Head when you set him up and everything like that. But I take everything off. And then I say, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and you tell me how to put everything exactly the way it was on his head. It's like paint the tail on a donkey kind of thing. But it's funny because it's like, oh, turn over, move forward, move back. Those little words that we never seem to use, So really, anything that you have, you can, make an activity out of it. So if someone brings something from home, it can really be anything that they really like, for example, with that alone, you can go from there.
I think at the very minimum, what teachers can do is, even if students are working in groups, and this is what I do, I always say, okay, choose someone to lead the session. So to keep the session moving, because sometimes it can be a bit stilted and it can stall when they're doing group work. But if you've got someone going, okay, let's start, let's move, who wants to talk, let's do this, let's do that, let's move on. It just, the pace of the lesson just keeps going.
Well, it's true that the pace, can be very important, but I think It's like when someone can't find that word, just give them the time to find that word.
Yeah.
Because our brains need to think. We're not always 1,000 miles per hour. But I understand the pace is important. But sometimes I leave the silence. Sometimes I leave the silence because it's realistic in a sense that they probably will be in situations where there is silence, and it's like, silence, okay, we go on to the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also though, if you're nominating the students to lead, there is, as well as sort of teaching them the functional language they need, also teach them the skills of leadership. So the difference between leading and dominating, it's not just like barging through and going through everything and getting things done. It's okay, what do you do when you have a quieter student? As you say, give them time, or ask them if they need help, or anything like that. But the skills of leadership and patience when leading as well. And again, it just comes back to that whole thing of, you're not just teaching them a language, you're teaching them skills, you're teaching them how to develop, you're teaching them real life stuff that is going to stand them in good stead.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. That's it. So when they leave the room, they're like, I love when they leave the room, they have a smile on their face. But when they leave the room, they say, okay, I've done something. I've clicked off from where I was before, and I'm here now, and I'm enjoying this now.
And I think it's important for teachers to slow down a bit as well. And I can feel myself doing the typical thing I do. I've got this big long syllabus. I've got this course book with tons of things in. I'm like, and I was panicking last week, going, how am I going to fit all of this in? And it's like, I don't have to. No. It's not going to do the students any good. Let the students choose what they want to do from the unit. Choice. And again, just giving them more power and giving them more choice in the class, I think, is everything. And I wish I'd kind of figured this out a longer time ago, but like you said earlier, I'm there now, so that's the important thing.
That's the important thing. You're there now.
And hopefully if people listen to this, they'll get inspired and to try sort of new things with their students, which is the exact reason I brought you on, because I knew you would say loads of amazing things.
Well, and to not be afraid to do it. I think that's what it is too, because they're like, what if it doesn't work?
So what?
So what? Just go on to the next thing, and if not, have a good laugh.
Yeah, my thing is, like, remember when you first started teaching, right? You did your course, you had all this new stuff, you were trying new things, you were scared then, but you got through it. Now imagine doing that again, but with better stuff. It's got to work in some way. What lesson plan goes to plan, like second by second? It doesn't. Something always goes wrong. But you do it, you try, you get the students' feedback, you reflect, tweak it, you try it again. Yeah,
that's it.
That's exactly it. That's what it is.
Try again.
That's it.
And I think they appreciate the fact because then they say, they're not perfect. That changes the dynamic completely.
Yeah.
So absolutely. The respect of that too comes there. It's like, oh, okay, that didn't work for her, but I guess it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay. I always say to my students, this is the first time I'm doing this, or I'm trying something new with you. Which I think they appreciate as well, like you're letting them in on it. You're showing them what's going on behind the scenes. And it shows that you're a teacher who's willing to develop and try things and, so you're humanizing yourself as well. Like,
yes, not a god. I just say, sometimes I say, I am not the dictionary. I don't know everything. Yeah. But I think you do get a lot more respect for it that way because they realize, okay, And so when they're in a situation, if things don't work out, then they don't panic. They don't panic because they see that, okay, I can come back from this, And that's important too, because I think people they really criticize and judge themselves so much that it's really hard to advance or progress and to know that, okay, I can make a mistake, but that's okay.
Yeah, and I think the earlier that lesson's taught, the better. I mean, there's so many. I think you spend so much of your kind of young adult life being unsure of yourself and not knowing who you are. And it takes such a long time to arrive to a point when it's like, okay, I know who I am. I know it's okay to make mistakes. Blah, 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 blah. It does. And I think, like we say, there's so much they can learn from you as a person to develop as a person.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we've solved the problems of the world, I think
Well, but it's good to have the problems to solve. If not, we'd be kind of bored, I think. I don't know.
Okay, well, I thank you so much, Wanda, for taking the time to talk to me. Where can people find you on social media if they would like to connect with you, which I'm sure they will?
Oh, that would be mostly on Instagram. WA Workshops with an S. And I also have a podcast for ESL speakers and learners where they tell their stories. And so, but that's with Wanda's hashtag Say What podcast, where learners actually tell their stories. So that could be interesting too.
Absolutely.
But that's how you can find me.
Lovely. Well, thank you once again. And I'm sure we'll speak very soon again.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Erin.
My pleasure. So, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, I would love you to hit that subscribe button, Everything EFL on any podcast platform that you're on. Leaving me a kind-worded review on Spotify or iTunes would be very beneficial for me too. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Everything EFL pod or podcast. If you follow my Everything EFL page, I can then invite you onto my Everything EFL teacher development page where I'm starting to post more videos and tips. If not, I'm going to be posting the same things on Instagram, so it's your choice. Just depends what platform you prefer, really. So, share the love, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. This podcast is free and always will be, so if you feel like giving something back, you can do one of the following. You can subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform, spare a few minutes and write me a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, follow Everything EFL on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, and engage with me and my followers. If you would like to contact me, my email is in the show notes. Finally, and most importantly, share this episode on social media and tell your colleagues. Share the love. Bye.